Every tool that we've used as humans has taught us something about ourselves, and using them has rewarded us with the development of distinctly human skills. For example, fire. This has taught us attention and stewardship and respect. More recently, computers have taught us logical thinking and how systems work. But there's all sorts of things like musical instruments that have stimulated patience and perseverance and expression. Which brings me to a question that's been on my mind a lot recently. What new skills does artificial intelligence reward us with? Every time a new technology comes along, we're changed in some way. And I don't think the answer is obvious. So what exactly does AI even ask of us? In fact, the more I've been looking at it, the more confused I've become. Everywhere I turn, people are asking questions such as what AI might do to artists, or programmers, or even entire industries. These are good questions, but I'm not sure how well they're getting to the heart of the matter. I'm seeing very few people ask the question, what is AI doing to you and me, as in us as individual people? These are the questions I've been trying to answer after recently using an LLM to try and code for a really old Nokia phone. So I went in search of people for which these questions really matter. And I came across the people that are directly responsible for the most important source code on the planet. And this is the Linux operating system, or more specifically, the Linux kernel. This is the software that keeps most of the modern world functioning. Linux today runs well over 80% of all the world's computation. It quite simply is the digital infrastructure that runs everything. And the Linux kernel is the solid core of all of that. If anyone needs to think about AI, it's these people. And I found that the Linux kernel development team have recently published a policy document on the use of artificial intelligence for Linux kernel development. And it says two very interesting things. I'm paraphrasing here. The human must take full responsibility for every line of code they submit. And the human is held legally responsible for everything the AI does, and they must sign their name to that. That seems like a good start. It's very pragmatic. If you want to use it, it's your head on the line. And this second policy, also very interesting, is there's to be full disclosure of any AI use. Attribution must include which AI model and which version was used to assist development. And the interesting part is, they state this is done for the purpose of keeping track of the evolving role of AI in the development process. I think this is a very clever approach to something we don't quite understand yet. I think most of us are concerned with how this technology is being used. And what the big technology companies are doing is probably the most concerning use of all. But tonight I'm thinking about how it's affecting us more directly. For example, I've started to notice there's an increasing number of new projects and new ports appearing in the retro tech and retro gaming spaces, which I strongly believe is being aided by AI in many of these cases. But I don't often see people disclose if they've used AI tools. And if they do disclose, I'm seeing a lot of shouting down and derision. And I'm also noticing there's a huge amount of fear in people when facing the possibility of talking about using an AI. I even saw one of the big tech channels mention this fear when talking about their recent experiences with Linux. This was on LTT.
I was so scared of that kind of reception that I cautiously was like, I'm not using an LLM to solve my issues. I broke that after like 2 weeks.
So I think there's now a culture of fear, and it's this silence that scares me far more. And we're not learning about what's actually going on. I'm very concerned that this fear is actually making the situation worse, because it allows the AI to continue to seep in, and I want to learn about what it's actually doing to us. As Eliezer Yudkowsky said, by far the greatest danger of artificial intelligence is that people conclude too early that they understand it. That quote has stayed with me, not because I think it answers the questions that I have, because it's been reminding me that we do have to ask questions. So I've been wondering how Linux developers that do use AI assistants are going to keep the kernel free from potentially copyrighted code. I think that's a fair question, because how do we really know where the AI learned to generate this code from? And that led me to Cory Doctorow's new book, which has challenged one of my assumptions. In one of the sections, Doctorow talks about copyright and AI. At least one AI company was caught downloading a huge amount of pirated books, which they used to train their AI models. This is obviously quite illegal and also immoral for a company to do this and then use that to make money. Then Doctorow goes on to talk about works available on the open web. For example, this very video you're watching right now. It's freely available on the open web. Anyone can watch this video in any way they like. You can watch it at 2 times speed, or with subtitles and no audio, or even upside down in the shower. It's completely up to you, and those things don't breach copyright. But then Doctorow points out that you can also do things like count the words I'm using. You can do a statistical analysis on my words, and you can even publish your statistics, or even create new works based on them. And no one's really against statistical analysis. But this is exactly what LLMs are. They're giant statistical word-counting autocomplete machines. So if they're trained on open information, well, there's no law preventing that. Doctorow also comments on the possible expansion of copyright law to prevent AI model training. But he points out how the expansion of copyright law over the past 50 years has also coincided with the creators of original works earning increasingly less over that time, while simultaneously the huge publishing megacorporations have been increasing their profits. And so perhaps counterintuitively is that expanding copyright law would not actually benefit creativity. There are no easy answers here, but something will definitely need to change. And I think fairness to creators has to be a huge part of that. I want to mention another issue that AI is confronting us with, and that's about energy use and the environment. There's a massive new AI data center that's just been proposed to be built near me. I already pay over 50 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity, so I want to mention the one thing that I do regularly use an AI for, and that's for editing these videos that you're watching. My video editor includes an artificially intelligent module for transcribing everything I say into a text file. It's a generative pre-trained transformer model, or GPT, which is generally what we mean by AI these days. And it generates a text file from my voice in my videos, and I can use the text to arrange and place all the clips on the timeline for me. And this is a huge time saver. Yes, it does make some frustrating mistakes sometimes, which I then have to fix. But even with that, I now spend much less time sitting in front of the computer manually editing all that audio. And what's really cool is this GPT model runs locally on my own computer. So I know how much energy I'm saving by not having to manually edit the clips myself over many hours. So I can see that it's not the technology itself that's the problem, it's how we're using it. And unfortunately, most AI use is not saving energy like this. In fact, most of the way we use it seems to be energy wasting. It's just like with social media and doom scrolling or garbage posting. We've built huge data centers to support all this, and we just don't think about it. So what really matters when we use these machines is not that they use energy, it's what we choose to do with the energy available to us that really matters. In a sense, it's not the AI that's consuming energy, we are. And this is where our intention comes into the picture. And this begins to hint at the answer to the question of what the AI might be teaching us about ourselves. And this brings me to my biggest concern about what the AI might actually be doing to us, which is the mental atrophy we experience from offloading our cognition onto an AI. In other words, the less often we exercise our own thinking and learning, the more susceptible we become to being influenced by the opinions of others and the output of machines. Something I've realised is that whether we use AI or oppose AI, the fact that it's seeping in everywhere means we have to be using more of our own intelligence, not less, in dealing with it. Another thing I've noticed is that if I let an LLM solve too much of a problem for me, I don't feel a sense of relief or satisfaction. Instead, I experience a strange emptiness inside, like I've traded part of myself away to get something done quicker and easier. So after thinking about all of these things quite deeply, I might now try and answer the questions posed at the beginning of this video. What inherently human skills does AI develop in us? And what might all this be teaching us about ourselves? And I think these questions apply whether we choose to engage with an AI or we're just trying to survive in a world where it's being inflicted upon us. And I think we're being asked to think much more deeply about who we really are and what sort of people we want to become, and how our values influence us, and what we truly want in this life. And the most important skill of all to develop is to really know ourselves. I have many more thoughts on the subject of artificial intelligence, and some very big concerns. Most of these tend to be more existential and abstract, but still very serious. I might make another video one day, but before I can get to that, the bubble might burst, or other things might happen. So what do you think of all this? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. I try to respond to as many as I can, but I do read every comment. So that's it for now, and I'll see you next time.